All right, so welcome to the playoff preview of Fantasy League. You're gonna love the background music of this. We are currently at a sushi restaurant, about to stuff our faces with, I think, 8 orders of all-you-can-eat sushi for round 1. So,
and this is Brian. In case Sean wants to give a proper introduction, but this is the only day we can get in time before the Thursday night games to give. I'll say regular season recap, playoff preview, and a callback to how our initial predictions were.
So we're recording this on Tuesday night, so this is before the waivers. So there may be some changes with who gets what guys and whatever else, but we're just kind of making assumptions on more on the Succo than anything else. We'll do the breakdown of the matchup for this upcoming week. I guess we're setting a bad precedent that we're gonna need to do something for next week when Chris and Ryan are up by. As we speak, we got about 64 rolls that we're going to be eating. So if you hear us stuffing our faces, we're alternating back and forth the mic and also the microphone and the pod. So. All right, so the first thing is, I do have a Google Doc that I'm gonna make available to everyone. So if you want to see the math that came behind some of the predictions and numbers, I can share that with you guys a little later.
Sean did all of the math in Microsoft Word, by the way, for you guys that use Excel.
Yeah. So
the non-teachers of the world.
So more or less what I did was looked at the standings and made divided the number of total points by 13 to get how many points per game for the entire year. And then I took also a sample size of 6 games from week 8 to 13 because that's pretty much when the trade deadline had an effect.
It's all about momentum there, Book. Once you get that momentum going, there's no way you can keep handle it. Also, domestic violence is horrible. There's never any domestic violence problems on my previous team, so I'm not going to mention that right now, Book.
Listen, I'd smack a bitch if I need to. Anyway, so what I have is we have a 6-week average of the last 6 weeks because injuries happen, trades have occurred. And then it gives us a better look at what guys are going to go where in the Succo.
So just because Sean has a chance to eat too, we'll start off with the Succo preview. And surprisingly, thanks to Sean's effort, I'll just kind of categorize. There are 2 tiers in the Succo group. I'll say, and maybe we'll call it 3, but there's basically a tier of teams that are about the same. Rob, based on the last 6-week average, is 111. Charlie is 111. Joe is 110. And Sean is 114 with, a crazy 188 week in there. But kind of within the same range. The 4 of them are within the same, likelihood of potentially, hitting those numbers. While on the other hand...
Guys, hold on one second. That's the Harlem Shakedown in the background? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's that. I haven't heard that song.
Welcome to 2014 or whatever year that actually came out.
I think it was 2013. That's a plot twist. Then there's the other 3.
Yeah, well, the other 2 that are left are Patch is averaging, although I don't trust his math here, about 91 points per game for the last 6 weeks, and then Mike is averaging 88. So you're looking at 4 guys in the 110 range and 2 guys in the well below 100. Now, you would say that's pretty, cut and dry, give Mike and Patch no chance, but you have players, throughout all of these weeks, except for maybe Mike, everyone was able to put up some higher numbers, where possible, and, only because, and I sent Rob a text on Sunday around like 1:30, when both Green and Olsen went out for him. Rob has the worst injury bug luck I think I've ever seen in any team in this, in any year. And he might have averaged 111 going in, but he could be averaging 40 the rest of the way. His players keep going down like Redskins quarterbacks.
Yeah. So and literally, we could segue to Rob first, but throwing it in, when it comes to the overall average, Mike in the 6-week average has 88.6, which is lower than his 98.7 annual. Bobby is 91 6-week average to his 107 average for the year. I had a 114.9 with a 104 annual for the year.
Go Gus Edwards.
Joe had 110 for a 6-week and 110 for the for the year, which is inaccurate.
The example of a consistency.
And then Charlie's 111.8 for the 6-week, 109 for the year, and Rob had the 111 for the 6-week and 115. So the key injuries for Rob was starting first are Green and Olsen, but it's actually the injuries for him are a blessing because it opens up 2 roster spots that he's not holding on to these guys, so he can find replacements for his wide receiver, and also he's going to be joining the ugly tight end streaming game. But he has Luck, Fournette, and Cohen, which have high ceilings. If he can get Drake in on the action, there's potential for him getting in on the 6 lotto balls. It all depends on those 4 guys, though, because what he can pick up on the waiver wire is what everyone has, and
Yeah, and just because if you're really going to listen to this podcast, and I'll caveat this now, this will get released sometime on Tuesday night. If you're listening to this podcast for waiver news, you're probably already lost. You know who's out there. If you're dumb enough to just not look at an article or listen to a podcast that is in this classic, ESPN also helps you too. But separately from anything else, there are some very clear running back and wide receiver options that Rob could grab to help fill in some of those gaps at the flex and wide receiver positions, as well as some other players that had some, as the late season injury and or IR bug hits different teams.
Yeah, the thing is, Rob does have Fournette, Cohen, and Drake, so he does have the wide receiver, running back, and it's a lot easier to find wide receiver help. So he's not,
and he does have Luck, who, despite last week, shitting the bed, like had like almost 6 or 7 games in a row with 3 touchdowns, putting up big numbers for him. So, I mean, last week was a little bit of an anomaly, but he can definitely consistently put up good numbers.
All right, so I think he could be in a decent spot. He could get lucky, but going on to the next was Charlie. I think Charlie, he's my favorite for taking down the
mine too,
most.
that book.
And having Kamara, Mixon, Hopkins, Adams, and Cook, all those guys are top 10 easy, maybe somewhere top 5 in position.
He's a championship team on paper, but just for some reason the teams just couldn't put it together in any week to be consistent. Like I couldn't imagine being Charlie and being frustrated by seeing those names. I'm like, I can't pick someone else to be better. There's no waivers that are really performing a whole lot better than the names that he has there. And even then, would you ever feel confident about starting someone else over Kamara or someone else over Joe Mixon? It's tough,
Well, the one area, he's got to get help from kicker DST and also his flex, since Deion Lewis had been more hit or miss. The one good thing with Big Ben is he's got Oakland, New England, and New Orleans. Oakland and New Orleans are on the road. They're 425 games, so the home road splits for Ben aren't really as an effect, because the home road splits are at 1 o'clock. So maybe he can rustle up enough points in weeks 14 and 15 to hold off the rest and create some separation.
Yep, I think you hit it there. Good.
So we got the next was Joe, which Joe right now, he's got Breida, who's hurt, and it's doing him a favor that he's not playing or he's already ruled out. So it gives him some flexibility to not wait until game day to figure it out and can attack the waivers. Surprisingly, though, Joe's team started off really, really on a downside, and I haven't looked to see if what his record would have been if he held on to Brown, but he quietly ended with a 4-game winning streak, and he's got a steadily producing team.
Which honestly is not bad for this type of setup. I mean, even if you have if you put out a good score week 1, you can basically stave off being knocked out early. And then from there, just hope that other teams, maybe you have one good week, and 2 steady weeks, and all of a sudden, at worst, you're setting yourself up to be with 6 or 5 balls. I mean, the name of this game for the Succo is not necessarily winning. It's just surviving. If you get knocked out week 1, you're losing out a really good chance of those first 2 balls. If you can just get to the end, I mean, the difference between 6 and 5 lotto balls isn't that big. It's just getting to that part of the game.
Right. And, he's looking out right now. The first crack, he's got Gordon hurt. He may or may not be back. He's got Eckler going, and if Eckler can hold up Justin Jackson, he can have he'd have Eckler and I don't know who is Chris Carson is his other running back.
Chris Carson, yeah.
So he's in a good spot, and he can, again, if he gets a nice average game for the past 6 weeks, a 110 game performance, he can start off on the right foot and put himself in a position to end out in the top 3, because like Brian said, top 3 is really not too crazy of a difference. So
I'll take the next one just so Sean can, he knows I can speak to his team. So I mean, Sean has actually done fairly well without reading his own notes about his shit. But having Gus Edwards and Josh Adams in the past 2 weeks has kind of been 2 big hits on for the running back waiver wires for the fact that he really didn't have a whole lot from the running back position most of the year. And Juju has been a solid performer pretty much consistently for him. So I mean, at this point, in time, he needs to rely on Goff to put up big numbers. The problem is he's got a tough matchup this week against Baltimore, and the Bears defense, which hopefully they can do a number as well. But at this point in time, you can put up big numbers, as is I think 188, which had been the league high at this point for the year. Followed by 659.9, which might have been the league low for the year. So either of those 2 numbers can either be the great, a guaranteed 6 or 5 ball situation, or immediate out. And there's really, but the rest of the weeks has been pretty good. Between the, I'll say, low hundreds to 115 range. So
yeah, and taking out the week 12 and 13 game. If we did a 4-game average of week 8 to 11, which were the non-outlier games, they would be a 109.6 average, which is still, within the range, within striking distance of the top of the remaining Succo guys. The mainstay of the wide receivers, if Cooper can produce, if Juju can do what he's been doing, if Edelman stays steady, and there's questions on Boyd. There's also questions with whether or not Michelle is going to be as good, especially with Burkhead back. So, it's going to be a lot of big play from all of the guys that have produced so far. But we'll move on to the next one, which is going to be Bobby. I wrote down, how much degaffing will A-Rod need to do to make Patch's team a contender? All the wide receivers and running back, aside from Philip Lindsay, are complementary flex parts. Rudolph is touchdown or bust in a passing attack, and the Eagles and Tate are still trying to figure out each other and how they use.
Yeah, I think Patch is kind of in one of those tough situations. I mean, he could try to get someone on the waiver wire, maybe improve some of his guys, but I mean, Rodgers was just, and it's not his fault, because in any situation you say, hey, you want Aaron Rodgers or streaming, or you want Aaron Rodgers, whatever else. And I know, Patch, you're always in my boat. You always stream, and this year, making that jump for Aaron Rodgers with your situation is probably the smart move, and it's the 1 year over the past whatever, that while Aaron Rodgers has been playing, he hasn't been effective. In other years, he's gotten hurt, and you can get someone else, but it's, you can't not have Aaron Rodgers on your roster and then not play him, and you just live with the consequences with it at this point. So,
all right, and then the last one is Mike.
Oh, so surprising that the clear decided factor earlier in the right after draft day of which team do you think has the possibility of crashing and burning. Who knew that Mike's team could crash and burn so hard? And even though I think he did pick, if you had to buy into one roster and say, you know what, I'm going to go balls in, balls deep on one team, which team would it be? The Saints probably are team number 2 or 3 at worst. It's Chiefs would have been 1, then Rams maybe, or Saints. I mean, and it's not like he didn't get bad parts. He just got some of the wrong parts. Throughout the whole time. And when you look at everything else, I mean, Devontae Freeman out early, trades Tevin Coleman away, which didn't matter because he sucked anyways. You just kind of, when it came down to it, didn't have I'll say the flexibility of roster to adjust with injuries. and handle a bad draft.
Yeah, and more or less, he's got the lowest score total
by far.
It's it would be a lot of luck 3 straight weeks for him to be even in the top half.
Yeah. How about this? He only has 1 week in the past 6 above 89 points.
Yeah, and
I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, if you just take out that 1 week, I mean, his average is like down to 82. I mean, the whole league would have to come back down to earth. I mean, entire NFL games are going to have to be postponed, and his games are going to have to play. It's the only way that he's going to get out of week 1. And I'll put that'll be my lock it up there.
Yeah,
Mike is not getting out of week 1.
So yeah, and he's averaging just under 100 points, which this is just the indictment of the new NFL. So all right, so we're gonna pivot to
another order of sushi.
Yeah, and we're Go Godzilla. Do you just want like 2 more orders since we put down about 50, 55.
1 order Godzilla or 2?
We go 1, and then do the Denver Broncos.
The Denver Broncos. Okay.
Yeah, we get that in. Yeah, in this time we've already housed down about 55 pieces of sushi together. So we got the matchups between the playoff teams, and then we'll wrap up with looking back.
And by the way, before we go to the matchups, congrats to John on a solid first place year. Basically, from about week 4 on, basically, never really gave up hold of at least a tie at first place, and he pretty much had a bye going into this week, secured. And Ryan, besides a little slip up at the end, he's been, well, I'll say the scariest team to go against in any week, just because of Mahomes and the running backs, and granted James Conner. I mean, if there's 1 week to him winning last week was such a big deal, and Chris losing, because I mean, if he was going into this week without James Conner, with Chiefs in a non-optimal matchup, maybe this was the week. I was personally kind of hoping if Ryan was going to go, if I was going to face Ryan, it would have been this week, because this might have been the weakest that he would have been going in. But hey, benefit of getting the bye, he could rest up, give all his guys an Asian massage and move on. So
as we're in a Japanese restaurant. All right, so anyway, so we got the first one is Jay and Brian, and same exact thing. Did the side by side of Jay averaging 128.5 points per game over 13 and 133.6 over the past 6. Brian, literally his average for 13 and 6 is at 126. So it's a pretty fair indicator of where he's been scoring. I did some, instead of like going in on just review, just looked at some of the matchups, some guys that are playing.
Before you go there, why are you guys letting me come all the way back and do this shit again? I'm just putting it out there. Last year I was 2-5 and you let me squeak into the playoffs, beating Rob. Sorry, Rob. And this year I was 2-6 and you let me come back and beat you in the make the playoffs again.
All right,
don't give me that confidence.
No championships are won in
championships are won between week 9 and week 13.
All right, so
apparently.
So anyway, we got matchups. I just looked for particular matchups. Again, just kind of things to take note of, and I made a prediction on the matchup between Jay and Brian. So I got first one is Lamar Jackson versus Kansas City.
Maybe
it's all dependent on Flacco, and also
it's also dependent if he's on my roster by Wednesday.
True. All right. So if he is, he's going to be chasing the scoreboard, but he's also one of the fastest quarterbacks that possesses the rock anyway, and he's got that low.
But he also got a low Wonderlic score. Yeah, he has a Wonderlic score of an 8. And I also have to be very concerned that he might get Jean-Claude Van Damme kicked in the face again and be out for longer than a quarter. So,
right.
No, I think it's actually an optimal lineup for Jackson. I mean, the concern would be Chiefs run up to score big, and maybe the Ravens decide that Jackson's legs are not the way to get back in the game, and it's his arm. And I'm not very confident that his arm can bring him back. So
I don't know if you're going to be able to do a second one. But, all right, so the second one is the Bills versus the Jets. Darnold coming back, leads the league in with 14 INTs. It's on the road. It's up in Orchard Park.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
So it could be a tough game. I haven't looked at the weather, but Darnold on the road. You know,
I'm gonna assume it's 25 degrees and a slight chance of snow there, Boog.
all right. So then you got on Jay's side, you have Ingram versus Tampa, which is
Scary.
Which is that's not particularly a good matchup. Wait,
No. Oh.
yeah,
You good, sorry.
We're recording. So
Sorry.
you on my phone?
No, you good. You good.
So yeah, Tampa's going to be in a negative game script, and there's a little bit of a revenge game because Saints were embarrassed at home week 1 against Tampa.
Yeah, but that game was also 48-40, where there was all of the touchdowns scored. So even if Ingram, is just on the field and falls into the end zone a couple times, that can lead to a big number for Jay.
Yeah, and then the last one is going to be Zeke versus Philly. Zeke went off on a really bad and not cohesive Philadelphia defense. Their secondary is even hurt even more, and Zeke's been really active in the passing game.
Yeah.
So I think at home on a fast track, the O-line's going to make a lot of holes, and it's going to be a really big matchup that could really swing the favor. I predicted Jay, winning pretty decisively, 136 to 115. I think just the matchups, the running back matchups, and also just the fact that Lamar Miller's been playing really well.
But on that note, Dante Foreman just breaking news there, Book. Dante Foreman was just activated from IR, so A is going to have to clear out of Jay's IR spot, and B that might take some carries away from Lamar Miller there.
All right. Cool.
So Lamar Miller, don't anticipate it to do a whole lot now. I actually think it's going to be a pretty damn close matchup, to be completely honest. Jay's got some real plus matchups, and when it comes down to it, I need to have. Losing Kamara and with the exception of Keenan Allen's week last week, I really haven't had too many big blow up weeks consistently from players like David Johnson that I kind of was hoping throughout the year. So maybe I'll get that 1-2 Hilton 40-point week that he always kind of does every once in a while. But if I have another week like I had last week, I'll be sweating bad, and I can't imagine that Jay's gonna have 3 injuries or 2 injuries during the week. So
yeah, and then here we go. We got the second matchup, which is Chris and Tim. Chris is averaging 127 points per game on the year, 123.9 in the 6 weeks, versus Tim's 130 for the year and 127 average. So, I'll be honest. I think that the Tim's team with Gordon's injury was weaker, but the first matchup with McCoy versus Jets is that's going to be a really juicy matchup for him. The question really is whether or not Josh Allen is going to be taking the yards from McCoy, or is Shady getting his.
Josh Allen with 135 last week. I mean, that's.
He had 100th the week before.
Yeah,
it was kneel downs that he lost.
He's basically the Great White Hope Part 2, but
Konami
this time with an
code,
arm.
baby. All about that Konami code. Just make it rain.
I was thinking him more like Peyton Hillis, but with an arm.
So yeah, we have that. We have Michael Thomas versus the Bucks.
Same again.
Just fire him up, man. This is going to be his
160 and 2 touchdowns lined up for him right there.
Yeah, and I haven't looked and seen his catch percentage, but he's up like close to 94, 95%, something like outrageous. It doesn't matter who's covering him. If they're rolling safeties over, he's gonna get some. The other one I put was Gronk. I put him in there because for Tim, he spent such a high draft capital. He chose Kelce, or he chose Gronk over Kelce. This is where he needs a big game, and not talking like a 40 yards and a touchdown. Like, you need a Gronk smash.
9 for 140 and 2.
Yeah, it's warm weather. It's against the Dolphins, who their team is not as good as their record indicates. And Gronk has had a really underwhelming year, and he's really underperformed, and it's probably part of the reason why Tim's struggling this year. So I don't want to say Tim's success is going to be hinged on a big game for Gronk, but it's time. It's come to the point. Yeah. For Chris, and I actually, the first 2 matchups, I kind of put a little shade on it, and I gave him one positive one, so it doesn't seem so pessimistic. The Falcon players versus the Packers. I brought up in the trade deadline, the trade deadline report, it's dangerous territory when you start playing, multiple parts in the same offense. Granted, they're playing the Packers, who now have a new head coach, and their season's lost. But it's a 25 degree high for a dome team, and they're on the road. You don't limit upside by playing so many parts in one.
I think it's just time to bench Coleman, bench Julio Jones, and really triple down on Austin Hooper.
Yeah, Austin Hooper is what, tight end 3 on their own team?
Something. Yeah. Well, I think he's tight end 3 in the league. He's been from a target perspective, percentage perspective. He's actually 4th behind Kelsey, Kittle, and Hurts. So I mean, he's actually getting the targets. It was a little bit of a joke, but. It was a little bit of a joke, but he is getting targets. But I do 100% see your point where if they have one of those games where they put up 13 points or 16 points or something low, and a touchdown goes to Ito Smith, all of a sudden you're sitting there with your your dick in your hand and a loss on the board. So
there's that one. And again, last week was an indicator of what could happen if you stack all your eggs in that one basket. The second one is Newton versus Cleveland. He's on the road. He has, there's concerns with his surgically repaired shoulder. He lost Greg Olsen for the year, and this could be a Christian McCaffrey game all day because they're not gonna put him in harm's way. There's too much potential for Cam to be benched over a streamer, but just there are variables that are in his odds against him.
See, I actually think the opposite. I actually think Newton is a great play this week. Ron Rivera. I'll give you some hot takes here. Ron Rivera's on the hot seat. What's the one thing they always do? The Panthers do when the second that they're up against the wall, all of a sudden Cam Newton starts running that ball a lot more and starts to become a little bit less pass happy, a little bit more dependent on his arm, and starts putting the ball over center and just So I'm anticipating at least 60 yards rushing, at least one touchdown from within the 2 rushing, and then maybe a dump off pass to McCaffrey for another passing touchdown. So it's definitely one of those situations where he can. He can take advantage of his legs and put up big points in a non-traditional way.
Yeah, no, I could see that too. I mean,
they're up against the wall for their season too. I mean, they need to get this win.
It's very true. Yeah, and they're the potential of him running is definitely there. It's a nice baseline to pad stats. The last one, and just so I wasn't throwing out so much negativity on Chris's matchups, Saquon Barkley versus Skins is just. I mean, he's not benching him anyway, but it's just going to be...
I don't know. I think, Chris, if you had real balls, you bet Saquon Barkley this week and just, find Ito Smith and add a 4th Falcon to your lineup.
Yeah, and, that's a bold move, Cotton. I just want to, Chris had a great pick in going after Barkley and locking him down,
Shame we can't keep him. Because I mean, I'd pay a 1st round pick next year and every year afterwards just to have Barkley on my team.
Yeah, there's no chance that he's escaping the top 5. I think he's going to be maybe the third running back off the board, and
maybe 2. I mean, I could see someone going Gurley than Barkley.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, between
especially if you don't have Eli at quarterback, maybe they can get someone else competent.
Yeah, you have what? Gurley, you have Zeke, you have Barkley,
McCaffrey,
you have Hunt.
Kareem Hunt will be playing next year in the American Football League.
Also, the XFL.
Well, XFL does make their announcements of their league locations tomorrow at 12 p.m. if anyone wants to watch on stream. And their first pick will be Kareem Hunt because this is a league for men, and they do stand for the national anthem.
Yeah, well, he's sorry, Ryan. That's tough. That's real tough. So for the prediction, I actually, contrarian to the record, I actually think that Chris won't be victorious. I think it's gonna be a 123-102 Tim win. He's got some juicy matchups. And again, the limited upside with the Falcons players is definitely something I'm going to be scared off on. Brian, I don't know if you had anyone.
Yeah, I think Tim will take it home too, but I think this will be one of those situations where it's a straight up sweat on Monday Night Football. Assuming I'm just going to go on the assumption that one of you guys is a player that's playing on Monday night. And we in this league we always need like one, I'll call it sweat game that the league pays attention to, and I think my game and Jay's is not going to be that close. I think that one way or another, either one of us is going to blow out the other. But I think this game can actually be real close with two teams that are So I'll just say it'll be within 5, and I think both teams will actually be in the 130s. So like a 137, 133 or something like that. Someone cursing out a player at the end of the game. I can see all of that happening. And moving on now, just to clarify, because maybe is it low? Is John get the lowest seed, or John get does it reseed? Do you remember?
So firstly, just to backpedal. So the Tim Tilt of Sunday night with Todd Gurley, and then Monday night with Minnesota and Sebastian Janikowski.
Oh yeah, of course.
Is real versus the Brandon Cooks, Jordan Howard, and LA Rams on the Chris side.
Chris, right. Saturday night, all those guys?
Sunday night.
So basically, they might as well just not even watch the daytime games. Their action's all at night.
All right, so how this works...
Oh, Sunday night.
So, Chris... So while we got another 20 some odd pieces of sushi coming in. So while Brian's eating, I'll just jump in and say that John has the first seed. He plays the lowest seed after this week. So
coming for you, John. Coming for you.
So and then he gets to select the heads or tails, the kickoff, and whatever else as well.
I hope the road team gets to decide.
Well, all right. So, looking at what we had from the preseason. So, when it came to contenders, I had 4. It was Tim, Patch, Jay, Charlie. I had 4 of 6. What the hell is that?
We had 6 people, 4 of them made the playoffs.
Oh, got it. All right, so I had Tim, Patch, Jay, Charlie, Chris, Brian, and Chris. Patch and Charlie obviously didn't make it. The pretenders were Joe, John, and Rob. And
so only John was the one to make that there.
And then the Succo, Ryan, Mike, and I. And Ryan obviously is shattering glass ceilings with being under the influence and drafting and just...
New rule, must draft high.
Yeah, that's apparently a league winner.
Yeah, and then for me, I had 3 out of 4 contenders. I had me, Tim, Patch, and Chris as contenders. Only Patch didn't make it out of that group. Pretenders, I had 2 out of 5, and it was Charlie, Ryan, Rob, Jay, and Sean, and then Succo, the Verdicchio brothers, and then John, because obviously, putting the guy who got in first place as the Succo is, really the smart decision on that one. So
yeah, we actually missed the people that had buys.
Yeah, good job. Yeah. We missed we both put the guys who got buys at the bottom. Good job, guys. Yeah.
So I guess we've also said earlier we may pigeonhole ourselves to maybe do something for the championship round.
We'll do something next week. We'll figure something out.
Just a head-to-head. It's too much. It's too much to say that Tim's going to be the winner. Like, an injury can happen, a matchup. So,
and to be honest, all the 4 teams in the playoffs are close. I mean, we're all within 5 or 6 points of each other on regular season. There wasn't a clear guy. I mean, there wasn't a clear guy that was sneaking in with a really imbalanced point score or anything like that. I think there was a clear. I think I was 6th, and I was within 20 points, I believe, of John, who was first. Something within the range of those. And Sean, you pulling that up now?
No, I'm also. I know that my idea of the top 5 records, and then the last guy.
I would love that shit this year.
With the last guy, number 6 seed was the most points. It actually worked out that way anyway. So it's it worked out that the top 5, and then the last guy, Brian, had 130 more points than Rob with the same record. So
it worked itself out.
So in any event, so when it comes to Succo, we'll just do the Succo prediction because that's a little more fun. We can poke fun at our own predictions, but So
especially if you end up as the sucko out of all this. I don't think so, but
I'm excited that I'm facing Mike, Patch, Rob, and Joe because Charlie's team's doing a little extra overtime to work out Magic. So in order from 12 to 7, obviously last place gets one lotto ball and is swimming or choosing the punishment. I got Mike as the sucko. Patch, I do have Rob, even though I'm confident. He may end up a little higher up, but I have Rob right now at 10. I had me at 9. I had Joe at 8, and I had Charlie at 7.
Yep, and I had very similar. I mean, the only difference I had is I had Sean finishing ahead of Joe at 8, and Joe at 9, and I also have Charlie winning the whole thing. I think, listen, over the course, in a 1 week situation, Charlie's team, may get beat because of, but over 3 weeks, it's one of those things where the best roster I think prevails, and he just has too good of a roster to not take advantage of that situation. So, I hope for the best. I hope, Charlie made it, try to make a run this year and didn't quite, pan out, but, maybe he can take home 6 lotto balls and set up his team for next year. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that'd be great if we got 6. Oh, by the way, I didn't see, just say to make it very easy. How the fuck? Oh, fucking Tim got most. All right, so Tim also has 2 lotto balls.
3.
Is it 3 or 2?
Yeah, 3. Yeah, Tim, who's in the playoffs, also gets 3 lotto balls. And good on Tim. Basically making sure
he just split it. So Tim's actually, he's got his hat in the ring to make things messy because now there are 7 teams that are going for the number 1 overall, which that's no fun.
Tim, you're the goal. You have it lined up for you. You had a great draft coming into this year. Good team. You can win the championship and get the number 1 pick. Let's call it for what it is. That's
optimal right there.
That is a real good situation, and hopefully he can bring it all home. But
he can actually get the Triple Crown. He can win.
Oh, true.
He could be the number 1, and he could be swimming in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, to pay back for the suck up of last year.
It's like a full circle that It's like
he can be the champion, the sucko, and the number 1 pick all in one shot.
Yeah, no, that's like that's like Simba taking over Pride Rock. So yeah, that's good stuff. So I think we blabbered a little too much, and I hope you guys enjoyed what we have. I don't know how many minutes we've gone on, but
give or take 30.
So I'll, if anyone's interested, I can make available the notes that we had just for you guys to read along or whatever else. But the guys that are in the sucko, you don't need to set your lineups. It's totally fine.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't worry. The guys that aren't playing, Chris and John and Ryan, hang out. Hopefully,
make sure you set your lineups. You don't want your players to rest.
And everyone else, good luck in week 14.
All right, thanks everyone. Best of luck.